Hey everyone, woohoo! Thank you so much for joining us on Upfront and the Prophetic. Today's conversation is one that bridges, I believe, the investigative journalism to personal conviction to global awareness. And so, with us today, we have Lance Schuttler, founder of Ascent Nutrition. Many of you probably know him, but some of you may not. So, go ahead and get a pen and paper because I believe what we're going to share today is going to rock your world. Lance is someone who has basically stepped in boldly to the health arena with a mission to bring clarity, truth, and real solutions to people in time where honestly, there's so much confusion, so much misinformation and information out there. And so Lance comes at this time to bring clarity. He's also, I want to mention too, he's also a journalist, like I mentioned, with Epoch Times or Epoch Times. I always get that kind of wrong, but anyway, they're an awesome publication. I'll give a plug to them. We get their newspaper because I like to have it in my hand. But anyway, he's authored over 300 articles exploring everything from economic times, science, nutrition, precious metals, and it just goes on and on and on. But today, it's just such a blessing to have him as a first-time guest. So without further ado, Lance, how awesome to have you on Upfront in the Prophetic. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Francine, for having me. I definitely appreciate it too, and I'm excited for this.
Well, if we look back to basically 2011, I briefly heard you say that it was a pivotal year for you where you basically awakened to everything that was going on within this like global agenda. So, what did you see and what shifted everything for you?
Yeah, so it began in 2008, but 2011 definitely was when things really catalyzed. But 2008 is when it began. The reason is because my family went through the experience of my father taking his life through pharmaceutical use. The pharmaceuticals absolutely warped his mind. We saw it, up front and personal. Um, he had been dealing with depression one winter, this was 2007, had never taken pharmaceuticals, had no interest in them, was generally healthy. And that winter, he just wasn't feeling the best. So he went to his doctor, just wanted to feel better, have more spark and more life. Um, just he was down. So went to his doctor, see if he could get some help. Was put on an antidepressant. They help a little bit sometimes and then swing back down, up and down. He was switched a few different times within 4 or 5 months. And then 5, 6 months later, he ended up taking his life. So that for me was the wake up call. That's what began everything. Yes, it was terrible and horrible, but I've learned and grown from it. I know that he's okay as a soul,
Yeah.
and that there's more to life for all of us, if we choose that. So um, that began. It opened things up for me. I started asking tough questions. It didn't hamper my belief in God or anything like that. I've always believed in God. Grew up Catholic, um, and that kind of led to me comprehending some of the stuff that the Vatican's been doing. We'll get into that stuff too.
Sure.
But I was learning that as a Catholic from a young age, and then kind of just started to see through some of their stuff. So um, that took place, took his life, and then about a year later is when I call this like my big red pill. I was in a community college class online taking anatomy and physiology during a summer of 2010, just getting credits and just passing time. um 15 weeks this class was broken down by. Each week was a different section of anatomy or physiology, so cardiovascular, immune, nervous system. Week 8 though was called inventing the AIDS virus question mark.
Wow.
And we were able to somehow speak about this book here, Inventing the AIDS Virus by Dr. Peter Duesberg. The foreword was written by Kerry Mullis. He was the gentleman and the scientist who invented the PCR test. A lot of people woke up from Kerry Mullis and those videos going viral back at that time, talking about how that test, was not meant for the whole pandemic situation. So, that's part of it with Kerry Mullis. But that book, we were able to actually read sections from this book. The professor kind of teed things up for us to walk down the path of seeing, um, not everything adds up. He wasn't trying to push any like global corruption or conspiracy, what we'd call back then.
Right, right.
So it didn't feel uncomfortable, even though I wasn't awake at that point. I was very interested and curious,
Wow.
and I went with it. And that professor definitely helped me, and I'm sure others, learn what the actual scientific process is and how to question, how to come to conclusions through asking multiple questions and just getting to the truth of things. So that really shaped me from a scientific perspective of just asking questions and discernment. What we have all had to go through of discerning through all the lies that we've been told. That kind of began the process for me. And at the same time, helped me to see that there's some really sick, sinister things that have been going on. So
Yeah.
that was my big red pill.
Wow. Uh, have you been able to contact that professor, since then? Because I wonder if, all this like illuminated him as well as time passed. That's amazing. Or maybe he was, really doing it in such a subtle way that hoping that people will open up their eyes, because I mean, typically college life, I mean, the professors are purely demonic, drawing you to, the whole other spectrum of their belief in liberalism and, just the demonic ways. So, wow, I find that very interesting. And high five to that professor.
Yes, absolutely, Francine. I have not been able to find him,
Mhm.
but that would be cool at some point. He definitely was red pilling everyone, whether they knew it or not.
Yeah, definitely. Oh my gosh. So, I mean, when did you start like speaking out and was it back in 2011 or when did that all happen?
Yeah. So, okay, this book that was 2010 that
Hmm.
summer, and basically was sitting there on my couch multiple times reading the book and consciously making the choice. Okay, I have to make a choice: either go down this path of learning more and seeing what this whole thing is about, or step back and just kind of pretend that I didn't learn any of that stuff for the past week. Um, I took the red pill, went down all the rabbit holes, started learning about the FEMA camp stuff, started learning about what they've been doing to humans and kids and, all the terrible things that we know. Um, and just really started waking up big time. And that led then to the following year of 2011, that fall. I was in school, and I remember coming across some information. The first gentleman was Benjamin Fulford, who a lot of people will recognize his name. He was the former Forbes journalist, and he was talking about the mass arrest scenario, the takedown of the cabal, the resetting of the financial systems, all of that stuff. So it kind of, all made sense at that point because a lot filled in, from 2010 to 2011, really started massively waking up and seeing what was going on. And so it resonated that, okay, like this can't just be the fate of humanity that we just get wiped out by these Satanists. God has to have a role in this, and there has to be something that's going on to try to counter this, because not everyone's gonna, go along with this, evil plan. So it resonated that, okay, what he was saying. And then also, David Wilcock, who just yesterday, allegedly he took his life. I hope and I pray that he's still alive somehow. Who
Valhalla.
knows? I'm not gonna, speculate either way. I hope
Sure.
and pray that that's that. is what is going on, along with the string of other, scientists, that's
Exactly.
happening. So potentially, I hope and pray so, because I mean, Francine, and a lot of people listening, he woke up the masses, and he was dropping, really
Bombs everywhere.
good,
Yeah.
yeah, all the time, and we were all anticipating his article releases for updates on what was going on. So, I became aware of all that stuff and kind of put my life on hold, so to speak, dropped out of college because I thought, all right, well, these mass arrests are coming next week or next month. Won't
Mm,
need this degree. The financial systems are going to reset. Uh, all those sorts of things.
right.
I'm sure a lot of people have done it too. Like, we're
Oh my
putting
God.
things on hold or waiting. So yes, been doing that since 2011, and you know doing what I can to try to spread the information and get truth out there. So I started speaking out more in 2011, and then in 2014 started writing articles about all of these topics, um, and doing it for alternative media websites, um, The Mind Unleashed, Spirit Science, Collective Evolution, Educate, Inspire, Change, a bunch of other ones. Did a little bit with Zero Hedge, and just really tried to get the information out. So that, started in 2014.
Wow. So you are really, I believe, ahead of the curve because a lot of people didn't start to see what was, occurring until like Q. And then people were like inquiring, what is Q? What is going on? I mean, everything stated, these deltas and everything. I mean, it seemed to so many of us so prophetic because everything was just like lining up. But I mean, for you to be ahead of that and to start educating the people is amazing, and just going back to a lot of the scientists and just people now that are no longer with us. I can remember Cash Patel mentioning Charlie Kirk and, I'll see you in Valhalla. And, a lot of people now are wondering if some of these people have been not necessarily taken out, but put in a place, like you said, of safety. I sure
Yeah,
hope
I hope so too, and I pray so. And what you just said, Francine, I know that caught a lot of people's ears, especially, with the Q information, what Cash Patel said. It was so strange and different, and almost obviously so for those paying attention, because if the mainstream story was true or is true of, what we were told happened to Charlie, which I don't believe, um, uh, then Cash Patel wouldn't be having that sort of, just like, it was a very cold, neutral, more like neutral, just like,
Mhm.
rest easy now, brother. I'll see you in Valhalla. Like,
Right.
if someone like Charlie Kirk had just been, you know, publicly taken out like that, as the mainstream has shared, I think Cash Patel's response would be different. I mean, who knows? We know there's so many levels of games going on right now, and especially as we're getting closer, it's
Mhm.
getting in some ways a little bit more challenging to discern who's who and what's going on. But
Ugh.
it's all, in some ways, it's getting clearer too.
Right. Absolutely. And this whole thing with, um, Iran and, the deeper depths of what that really means and, the coercion with, Britain and everything is being exposed right now. And, what's so sad too, Lance, is that so many people that I considered, friends are now coming against President Trump. And I believe it's because they really don't understand what's really going on and that this truly is a military operation. What's your thoughts on all that?
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's also coming down to patience for people. And I'll openly share, I'm getting impatient.
Yeah,
But
me
I
too.
also know that, there's a plan going on, and we can't control the timing. We can wake people up as fast as we can, but there is a timing thing in place. I think where we're just at is people are sick and tired of just hearing talk. We want to
Right.
see accountability and arrest. Like that's what it comes down to. Even if someone isn't fully conscious of it, that is what it is boiling down to on both sides. We want things to be fair. We want things to be uh, um, just and people held accountable regardless of political party. Uh, because the whole system's broken. Like we all know that it's in shambles right now in terms of like I mean, nothing is nothing is as it should be. We've got
Yeah.
criminals walking around and still calling the shots in some ways publicly,
Right.
not privately, but it's hard for us where we know what's going on in general of like, okay, just do it already because like we know that these things are done and gone, but they're still
Right.
kind of affecting our public lives in some way.
Yeah.
Um, so, I'm definitely impatient myself, but also just praying and trying to do what I can do to
Right.
bring peace and, collapse timelines if we can.
Yes, absolutely. I think this whole thing, yeah, I'm reminded of just my husband being in the military, and sometimes it would be a need to know basis, or we have to move on the element of surprise, where you say one thing and then boom, it happens a total different way. And I think that's kind of where we are, and most people are not familiar with military protocol, how they work, and so forth. But I think that we're really putting a spotlight on the corrupted military too. I mean, it's just a realm of exposure everywhere. And I'm right where you are. I mean, it is like, okay, can this like be done already? Can we just be on the mountaintop instead of in this valley where it's just a mess, a mess? And so I wanted to know too is when did you step into Ascent Nutrition? Was it like after your dad, or did that motivate you to step into it because of maybe COVID, or how did that all come about?
Yeah, thanks, Francine. So I'll come to that and I'll keep filling in the timeline of where we've been talking about.
Okay.
So, um, graduated in 2014 from college studying health science, started doing article writing kind of on the side. I started working in the nutraceutical industry, repping different companies, doing demos for companies, working as a health coach for myself and for other companies. That was from 2014 up to 2020.
Uh-huh.
In that time too, I did a little bit of work with Robert David Steele. A lot of people remember him. He was nuking out the truth too and sharing a lot of good information. He was aware of Q. He believed in it overall and in general. But like us, he was, wanting a lot of the details to get filled in and just, he was wanting to see accountability even back then, just like we were. So I helped him kind of with some article writing or like research for articles and really mainly suggesting uh, topics around YouTube videos. So a lot of people remember when Robert started taking off on YouTube and BitChute. Um,
Yes.
I was kind of helping him in the background to just some of the YouTube stuff on the technical side, and then also just content ideas and helping to kind of navigate through the censorship that started taking place, and ultimately just trying to help Robert get his word out there more.
Hmm.
He didn't really want to be doing video content, but after I was just highly suggesting it to him, like a few different times, like Robert, it just makes sense. Um, like people want to hear you. You're already so well known. You've got all this traffic on your website. Like that will people are going to definitely love watching your videos. So he blew up. Like a lot of people remember that he took off. Um, and did a lot of great work to help and protect all of us.
Yeah. Wow. When did he pass?
2021,
Okay.
and a lot of people. I have hope and I pray that he's somehow alive. A lot of
Yes.
people think he was taken in by Q. I personally don't think that. Um,
Okay.
just to be honest, I don't think that's what happened. I hope so. I pray so, but
Mm.
it, maybe not what actually happened in his case.
Right. I think we're gonna be shocked at when things do come out, and, I'm not sure if, everything will come out, but, I believe will. I know my thoughts are, "Oh my gosh, we're gonna be shocked to hear, things that we thought were this and were actually different," and, I mean, what's your thoughts about that? Because we look at, okay, I mean, what's in our face, Joe Biden, right? That so was not Joe Biden, and I think when people really find out that, oh my gosh, this guy, this actor, he was acting for Joe Biden. Joe Biden died, years before. And I wonder with that, like the Bible talks about, and their hearts will fail them. I wonder if that's what the Bible is talking about, is that when we truly find out what has been really going on, many will be in shock. What's your thoughts about that?
Yeah, definitely. And I think where it's going to go is honestly something like what The Simpsons predicted, where they took the masks off some of the politicians and showed that they're aliens.
Right.
And like you probably remember this, um, when Clay Higgins, maybe 5, 6 months ago now, um, he tweeted or made a post on X of a photo of Hakeem Jeffries, and he said reptilian dot dot dot.
Mm, yeah.
And Clay Higgins, he doesn't seem like someone to mess around. Like he's just kind of straightforward. Either way, like it seems like he's a good guy. I hope that he is. It looks like he is. But
Right.
either way, that is a message. Like a congressman would not just be saying and doing something like that to another one just for fun. Like, yeah, he's probably trolling in some ways, but I don't think it was just a troll. I think it was the beginning of the drip, drip, drip for these kinds of disclosures that, yeah. And I think we're going to need to see stuff like that where, some of these famous people who we thought were killed are alive. They were taken in by Q or witness protection. I believe that's true, many
Yeah.
of them. And then I also believe and hope that they do, really start accelerating the disclosure of these negative beings wherever they are, and however that's been affecting things. Certainly, it's going to all tie into these 11 scientists. 12 now with David, um, missing or dead. Um, it's all kind of coming back into this. So that's where I think we're going and where it needs to, because that will shock people awake. If we've got people getting masks ripped off, even if it's just another human, and they're
Yeah.
showing another mask, like that alone will jolt people awake. Like, yes, you guys, they've been lying through their teeth about everything.
Yeah, for so long. And it's amazing though with The Simpsons, how that's even come into play here, because they've shown so many things, and then it manifests, and then I think about like a lot of these movies, Lance, like The Matrix, or even some with Tom Cruise, where they made masks, and then and how real, and I think they show us these things to make you think, but most people just watch the movie and don't analyze it, but now my husband and I seem to analyze every movie that we see. Okay, what are they trying to show us here? Do you
Yeah.
find yourself doing that too?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because you can tell they're like everything's intentional that's put out. So, yeah, I love trying to decode all the things happening.
Yeah, especially Trump and his comms, and it's just amazing. If we really pay attention and listen closely, then we'll get like the next clue to what's going to happen. A lot of people talking about clues. There was a movie out, the love story of Caroline and JFK Jr. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, what timing, because a lot of people wonder, with the Trump card, is that JFK, or why would they play that now? So I don't know. It's just intrigues me, because I really believe that he is still alive. We had a dear friend that was close to President Trump, and during the whole COVID thing, he was murdered. But we would talk a lot, and he would mention JFK Jr. Being alive, and then we did an interview with a young gentleman who was running for representative here in Pennsylvania, and I don't know, I mentioned something about JFK, and he fell off his seat, and he's like, no one's supposed to know that stuff. So I mean, what's your perspective on that whole thing there?
Very simply, I think that he's alive as well,
Yeah.
and his wife. I think they're both alive. I think the FX series was definitely to get us to start looking at that more. And again,
Mm,
the Q drops relating to Junior. I mean, I know they said no, he's not, but um, I don't think they would come out and just say yes back then. Um,
right.
uh, and that post that you remember, I don't remember the number of it, but it's like the start, the plane crash, JFK Jr., POTUS,
Mhm.
HRC 2000, the things they list in there. I think that's, tying in. And I mean, maybe he comes back for July 4th. Who knows?
Right.
They'll do it at the right time. I think
Agree.
he was the one standing on Mount Rushmore
Oh
back,
yeah.
whatever it was, 4, 6 years ago.
Yes,
I think that was him.
I agree.
I think he's alive for sure, and I think a lot of these people are alive.
Mm. Yeah, like you said, I sure hope so, because wouldn't that be a shocker, Lance? I mean, especially to, these hardcore, staunch Democrats, and then to see, him show up, and then people go, "Oh my gosh, we've been played like big time."
Yep, yep, absolutely. Yep, it'll shock people awake, and that's where we're at. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go. Well, at the beginning of the broadcast, you mentioned the Vatican. Um, wow. So, what does the Vatican play in all of this? Because I too, Lance, was raised Catholic, and I can remember in eighth grade, we went to a Catholic school, and my mom was really close to this one nun, Sister Jean. And Sister Jean, she was, I think, planted there by God, because she would share like more things in depth about, the Bible and the Holy Spirit and everything. Kind of woke us up, to the truth and everything. But I can remember at 8 years old, sorry, eighth grade, and going to confession, forgive me, Father, for I have sinned, right? Do you remember those days,
Yep,
right? And I can remember seeing, the screen and the outline of the priest and everything. And I was like, wait a minute. I don't have to tell you what I did. I can go to Jesus. Oh my gosh. Like that. And I like walked out, and the nun was like, get back in there, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, oh my gosh, wow. It was like such a revelation to me. And but then I started seeing things, like the priests and the young, boys. And I was just like, oh, what is going on here? This is supposed to be holy. So, I mean, you growing up, Catholic too. And I mean, what have you found in regards to the Vatican and what's really going on?
I think a lot of the stuff that we all know by now, for sure, which is that they've been at the top of the control structure, at the
Mm,
top of the pyramid. Um, it's been the Vatican, London, and DC as the
mm,
power centers. The Vatican as the spiritual power center on the planet to control us on a spiritual level, and obviously every other level through that. Um, They've been involved in all of it. Like we know the 2020 election also was rigged via the Vatican that night, documented, sworn affidavit on that. I think all of that's going to be coming out too to
Right.
connect the Vatican, with the Q stuff, the Godfather. Um, it's going to be biblical, tying in all of that. So I think we're going to be seeing more of the Vatican exposed. They've certainly done a lot to manipulate the Bible, pull
Yeah.
books out of the Bible, change language, try to control the pineal gland. They've got that statue, Fontana della Pigna, right there at the Vatican.
Mm.
Statue of the or Fountain of the Pine is what
Yeah.
that means.
Hmm.
And yes, there could be a lot of different interpretations, but I think the most common one for people who are awake is that they're signifying to us that they know about the pineal gland, the so-called seat of the soul, and they've wanted to control that. And they've done it through fluoride, bromide,
Yeah.
chlorine, um, all the different electromagnetic frequencies, the high fructose corn syrup,
Oh,
um, trying to calcify that pineal gland.
yeah.
So they've been masters at that and kind of telling us that that's what they're into.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, if you look at how they've pushed even in the toothpaste and everything, the fluoride, and the mouth absorbs so fast, so it just goes right to the pineal gland. And but I mean, let's float back over to Ascent Nutrition. I mean, you have a product there that helps like clear up the cobwebs in the pineal gland, don't you?
Yes, absolutely. And that's the pine pollen tincture. So,
Hmm.
we take what's from nature that they've tried to weaponize against us and use it for good. So, pine pollen, it's, the yellow dust-like substance that comes off of
Yes.
trees, like starting about right now. We
Hmm.
wild harvest a couple specific species that are super nutrient dense, and it's got compounds in there like glutathione and SOD, which is superoxide dismutase. Those are the body's two strongest internal free radical scavengers, or antioxidants, you can call them. And so they help detox, they help bind to heavy metals, chelate, detox. We've also got a pine needle extract. So that first one is pine pollen. It's got all sorts of different detoxifying agents in there, and um, compounds like DHEA and other steroids for hormone health for people. But then also the pine needle extract. So that's from eastern white pine needles. This
Mm.
is what you could think of as like pine needle tea in a bottle. Very
Okay.
easy and convenient to use. It tastes great. Um, those two, straight from the forest, wild harvested. We extract them the right way. It's super clean. Done all the right ways that need to be extracted, and for cleanliness and superiority in the nutrient profile. So all of that, those two are phenomenal for detoxifying the blood, the cells, supporting health in different ways, like brain health, cardiovascular, libido, energy, so forth. Yeah, I don't want to get into like a whole spiel on it, but like that's the compounds of what those that's the effects of what those compounds can elicit. So we've been doing this for 5.5 years, and talking about all these things to help people with pineal gland function, detoxification, all the different things that I've listed, but really with the ultimate goal of helping people just to feel our best, because
Right.
we know that the enemy wants us weak,
Ah,
wants
yes.
us feeling defeated, wants us feeling lethargic, doesn't want us having energy. So we do the opposite. And that's how I really got into all this stuff, is trying to find what nature has provided, what God has made for our bodies, and
Mhm.
not what man has altered to be synthetic.
Yes. Oh, that's so good, so good. And, I mean, so where can they find you? Is it at Lance, Schuttler.com or AscentNutrition.com? Are those the 2 places where they can find more information?
Go ascentnutrition.com. Yeah,
Okay,
that is the website. Go ascentnutrition.com. Ascent Nutrition is the brand. And
okay.
then, yeah, my personal website, lanceschuttler.com. We're on all the socials. I'm on there as well. Um, but yeah, uh, we've got mushroom products too. We've got a spruce soap. So we wild harvest and crush up spruce tips and then mix it in with all organic oils
Oh,
for a soap. It is phenomenal. I'm very particular with what I put on my body and in my body.
mm-hmm.
And so this soap is super clean. No, fragrances or synthetic perfume. They say
Mm.
parfum on there. That's all synthetic. None of that stuff.
Wow. Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out. For the longest time, we were buying soap from Hero Soap, which is like essential oils. But I like what you just said and how and what you have in that. So I'm gonna have to go ahead and switch soaps there. Wow, that's amazing. And I've heard of so many in you know Rome, when you just do the research about how crooked they are, and the popes and Jesuits and everything. I mean, their whole plan is to eliminate the global dissemination, get rid of the people. I mean, look at the global, oh, what was it, the guide stones, right? I mean, right on there. Lance, my husband and I used to live in Georgia. We went to the guides, the Georgia Guidestones. Back then, they didn't have like a fence around it. And so we went in there, and just to see like what was labeled and everything, I was like, oh my gosh, these people are trying to kill us all, you know? And I mean, just like, wow. And then of course, I think, the hand of God, the lightning of God, or whatever took them out was just, I think, um, oh my gosh, a statement to say, you know what, you're not in control.
Yep,
Right?
absolutely. Very intentional.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And gosh, you mentioned something in regards to the Vatican just pushing the fluoride, and even I've noticed like formaldehyde in certain things. I mean, that's a killer right there. That's what they use to and embalming, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it's disgusting. I mean, we're finding out so much, and as we know, it's so dark and sick. And I mean, it's good that it's all coming out. It has to. It's justice for everyone and for all the victims who've been hurt in any way from everything that they've done.
Yeah, I agree. Again, there's just so much information that I can kind of open up Pandora's box here, and I know your time is precious here. I wanted to ask you though, with so much information out there and misinformation, how can people develop discernment in this time? I mean, what would you say to give hope to people in this time?
Um, well, since I think, many or most or all of your followers, Francine, are aware of Q and just kind of the things that are going on, like I think beyond that, it's really just honestly praying and going within and asking God to give you discernment. Because,
Yeah.
if it was someone who wasn't awake, I'd say I'd give a different answer. I mean, the same thing always, of course, prayer always helps and always works. But the point being, like, what do I say to your audience is for discernment, I think the best thing is just prayer and asking for that discernment, because even for me, it's hard to tell in some ways who's who and what's exactly going on with all these, public actors. And just yesterday, I mean, you probably heard it, Kevin Warsh himself saying he's central casting, um,
Right.
and just all of it. I mean, and Trump when he did the whole big Iran press announcement when they went in and saved a couple of those people, a couple of the
Hmm.
soldiers, he said central casting 3 times in about 10 seconds. And
Right.
I mean, we have this very serious thing going on, and then he's saying the central casting thing. He's telling us that yes, very serious things happening, real things happening, and it's also scripted and fully running to a T.
Right. Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's good. That's good. I'm glad you mentioned that. For those that are listening right now, what do you see is our next move?
I, well, what I'm praying for is mass arrest right after we get done with the show. That's what I'm praying for because we're all tired of waiting.
Yes,
um,
I gotcha.
the SPLC yesterday getting indicted and that now all getting exposed. That's
Right.
great. I think it's going to just start ramping up more. I hope that we see more arrests and more indictments and more prosecutions. I think, we kind of have to. There's a lot of timelines of people saying that we aren't gonna see arrests till after the election, after the midterms in November.
Mhm.
That's possible. Anything's possible. I don't know when things are gonna happen, but to me, it almost seems like some like major things have to happen before then because like all of
Uh,
these elections have been rigged since and they know it and they've been dropping the evidence on it. So how can we even if it's just the save act passing before then, like the
mhm.
current congress, they aren't going to vote that in. Like we've seen
Right.
that they're not going to do that. So Trump can sign it in himself. I'm aware of that, but also like we need to see people held accountable. General Flynn said it multiple times, Mr. President, we have to see action before
Yes.
we're almost too late. um
Right.
from what
Yeah.
he's sharing. So he's also shared, should the citizens uh like should the federal income tax be brought to an abrupt halt until all the fraud is figured out and we can know who owes what.
Right.
So it
Right.
feels like
Eliminate it, will you?
yeah, something's gonna like they said, the music's gonna stop at some point. It feels like there has to be some sort of
Yeah.
like switch, or like big change, like an abrupt halt to things like mass arrests or something like that, mass purging of
Mm.
Congress. I don't know. This is what I'm hoping and praying for, Francine. I don't want to wait any longer. I know everyone's in
Yes.
the same boat. We want this now, but
Yeah.
I think it's important we just keep saying it and doing what we can do.
Yeah.
They're taking in all this information. This intelligence plan is monitoring things in real time, and you know, if more and more people are continuing to demand arrest and demand accountability, that only is going to help. It's not going to slow things down. It may
No.
not speed it up, but it's not going to slow things down.
Yeah, amen to that. Oh my gosh. I'm hoping that this all breaks wide open before the 250th celebration because then we'll have something to celebrate.
Exactly. And that all ties into it too, with Trump putting his name on the new currency. And
Yes.
from what it looked like, it doesn't even seem like it's going to be called Federal Reserve notes. I
Right.
don't know if that's actually the case or not, but it seems like it. Um, if things don't change before then, what do we have to celebrate? I mean,
Right.
yes, many things, of course, to be grateful for. The fact that we're even alive. They would have had us in the camps a long time ago. Like, we're
Agree.
all aware of that. And like, let's see some real stuff to celebrate. Um, like before then.
Amen to that, brother.
Yes.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Well, I tell you, Lance, I want to thank you so much. This has been so powerful and it just went by so quick. So
Yes. Yes.
we'll have to have you on again. And
I
I'm
would
sure,
love to. Yes.
oh,
Thank you, Francine.
amen, amen. And I believe that next time we have you on, maybe like in a month or so, we're going to see a lot of things that have transpired, and we'll start to really ramp up the people to celebrate. I pray. So,
Yes.
again, hey guys, just head on over, click on the links that I have below that will bring you over to Lance Schuttler as well as Ascent Nutrition. And we just want to thank you so much, Lance, for joining us today. Thank you, everyone, for just clicking in and send this out to everybody you know. We need to educate those that are out there. So stay vigilant, stay grounded, and we'll see you next time on Upfront in the Prophetic. God bless you, everyone. Thank you, Van. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
Thank you, Francine. God bless you.
Blessings.